Let's talk about Cobra pose today. It's one that we teach in almost every practice, and especially in a vinyasa style class, it can land a little bit more as a transitional shape, something that we're moving through in a sun salutation. But it's also one of the really foundational poses in that backbending family. And understanding the alignment here can really carry through to all the other backbends. So we'll look at the whole pose, starting from the foundation, the feet, the legs, the low back, the hands, the shoulders, and the neck. A lot happening, right? The feet and the legs, why they matter in a prone pose, the low back and how to spread that work through the whole spine, the hand placement and what changes when we make those small adjustments, as well as the shoulders and the neck and the space we want to create there. And then as usual at the end, we'll talk about some simple alignment cues that you can bring back into your classes. So let's take a look at it on the mat. Okay, let's look at this pose from the feet all the way up through the neck, how to support the back bend, and how to create some space in the front body. One thing I think about with this back bend, and with a lot of back bends really, is how we distribute the back bend evenly throughout the whole spine so that we're creating a continuous curve of the spine. Our low back, our lumbar spine, and our neck, our cervical spine, naturally have more extension, more range of motion here than the mid back, right, than our thoracic spine. So often the goal is how do we support the low back, the neck, so we're distributing the back bend evenly, and that all of that curve isn't just landing in the neck and the low back. If you can lie down, just feel a little bit of these cues and alignment in your own body, play with it, see how it feels, right? As always, there's no one right way. It's just ways to explore the alignment in each pose. So let's start with the feet. I really like here a little space between the feet. Gives my hips, my low back a little room, so they don't have to be hugged all the way together. On the flip side, they're not super wide. It's going to be a little different in each body. I tend to think like a standing pose, feet hip width, parallel to one another. The other thing that can often be missing in this pose is the really active engagement through the tops of the feet. So that as we cue the pose, we press down through the tops of the feet. And as you do that, see if you can feel that muscle energy and engagement travel all the way up the legs and into the glutes. A little note with the glutes here and the engagement is that we want them turned on, supporting but not gripping. If the glutes are working overly hard, it can feel like a little compression within the SI joint. So there's support without clenching. Anchor down through the tops of the feet. Feel that energy travel up through the legs. But a little softness in the glutes. When the feet are engaged and the legs are turned on, it's creating this great framework for that whole bottom half of the pose. Think about it like a standing pose. We didn't have that support of the legs, what that does for the upper body. Okay, next, low back. Like we said, a lot of the back bend tends to land here. What happens commonly in Cobra is that we press through the hands, the body lifts straight up, all the weight comes into the low back. So I like to think here length over height. And a wonderful way to start this is to lengthen the tailbone back towards the heels. So that even before we lift into the pose, we're creating a little bit more space and length within the low back. This can be helpful so we're not just compressing that space of the low back. There's room to move into. And I think it gives us and our students a lot of awareness of what's happening in the low back. When we can feel that space open up first, it's like, that is there. That's Lengthening of the low back also pairs really well with some engagement through the lower belly. And this doesn't have to be a huge amount of support, it's just a little lift up and in. And I would often cue this as an inhale to lift up through the low belly, and an exhale to lengthen back through the tailbone. And just notice the support and the space that creates through this lumbar area of the spine. So when we pair that, the support of the legs, the structure and the framework, the length in the low back, then we've created a really nice container for the pose from the hips all the way down. Let's look a little bit at the upper body next. So I think that the hand position and the shoulder blade position partner together here. What's common that we see in this pose is the hands are really far forward of the shoulders, which can just compress that whole shoulder girdle a little bit more. You might even just feel this in your own body and notice what happens when the hands are forward of the shoulders versus placing them back by the low ribs, the mid-rib area. It might open up that top of the shoulder area a little bit more. So then from here, I can hug my shoulder blades in towards the spine. Notice that what that does for the front of the chest. And then this one I love. Draw the bottom tips of the shoulder blades down towards the waist. So they come in towards the spine and down towards the waist. Now again, we have that nice, really strong container for the whole front line of the shoulder girdle. Then from there, I can use the strength of my back over the strength of my arms to lift up into the pose. Support and structure, space in the front body. One other little cue that I find helpful here, just for creating more space across the front of the chest, once we've lifted, we press into the heels of the hands and traction the heels of the hands back towards your hips. And sometimes that gives you a little bit more broadening across the collarbones. Okay, last one here. And we touched on this already, the neck. Because of that range of motion in the cervical spine, right, so common for the neck to take a lot of the back bend here. Ooh. The head comes back. And I think part of it is just like it feels like we're back bending more because the neck goes back. But if we come back to that idea of creating continuous curve of the spine and distributing the back bend evenly from the low back, the mid back, and the neck, it can be really helpful to keep the back of the neck long. So it feels like that curve is in proportion to what's happening throughout the rest of the spine. It's really easy for the weight to come, or for the back bend to come low back and then neck. And again, feel this in your own body. How does it feel different when there's length in the low back, support through the belly, lift from the spine. When the shoulder blades come back and down, it's encouraging the thoracic spine forward. And then I keep the back of the neck long so that it's one continuous curve of the spine. And in that way, hopefully, we create a little bit more support in the back bend, right, through the leg, the engagement of the legs, the support of the low belly, and that engagement of the shoulder blades onto the back body so that we can distribute the weight evenly throughout all those areas of the spine. A well-organized Cobra pose has a lot of benefits. It's really strengthening the muscles on that whole posterior chain of the body, the back of the legs, the lower, the mid, the upper back, even the shoulder girdle, some areas that can get a little weaker when we sit often. The challenge here is that the lumbar spine usually wants to do all of the work. So teaching our students to find the length before the depth and let that extension travel through the whole length of the spine can be such a skill here that we learn in the bodies. The other challenge is that Cobra sometimes, as that stopover in the vinyasa connection, can be hard to take the time to break it down. So slowing it down and teaching them at this level of alignment, even just once at the beginning of the class, can really change how they experience every backbend that follows throughout the sequence after it. So let's just go back through some of those things that we're looking for and some cues that we can try. Remember, there's no one right way to do or teach the pose. It's going to show up differently in every body, so honor that. This is meant to be information and supportive rather than corrective. So first, look for that engagement and muscle energy from the tops of the feet all the way up through the legs. Right? Simple cue here, actively press through the tops of your feet to support all the way up the legs. Second, the low back. Is the extension distributed through the whole spine, or is it concentrated in the lumbar spine like we talked about? So before you lift, lengthen. That cue, lengthen your tailbone back towards your heels to create more space in the lumbar spine. Third was the low belly. That little bit of support, right, gentle core support that really does help with the lumbar spine. The cue here, gently draw the low belly up and in, not a gripping, just a little support. And notice what shifts in the low back when you do that. The fourth was, where are the hands in relation to the ribs? You can slide the hands back to the mid or low ribs. Give the chest some room. And use the strength of your back to lift over the strength of your arms. Okay, stay with me here. We're getting there. Fifth, where are the shoulder blades on the back body? What we talked about in the body on the mat was draw the shoulder blades in towards the spine, open up across the collarbones, and then the bottom tips of the shoulder blades down towards your waist. So we get the engagement in the upper back and the opening through the front of the chest and the collarbones. Okay, last, look at the curve of the neck. So keeping that continuous curve of the spine, cue to keep the neck, back of the neck long so that it's one long line from the lumbar spine all the way out through the cervical spine. When we teach Cobra pose with this kind of attention from the feet all the way up through the neck, I think we're teaching more than one pose. We are inviting students to really be in their spine, learn how to support and create that continuous curve of the spine, and that really carries to every backbend that follows after that. If the breakdown's been helpful, reminder again, this whole Teaching Yoga Alignment series is about this, and the link to the playlist is below. We'll see you in the next one.